Social anxiety, a common topic for men. I'm just coming back from a surf, see my boards in the back there, and had a 20-minute drive and figured I'd share an experience I had yesterday, which is about social anxiety, getting anxious in social situations. I wanted to share my experience because I know a lot of guys can relate. I wanted to share what I did, and hopefully it helps you in a situation where you might be feeling anxious in a social setting. So I'm Sean. I started mensgroup.com. We're a community of guys that are into personal growth, trying to overcome challenges, want to talk about it with other guys in order to overcome those challenges quicker or to receive guidance, stuff like that. And I never wanted to be leading men's groups or anything like that. I just needed a men's group myself for talking through things like social anxiety, which I've dealt with my whole life, you know? And so as much of my family. But sitting in these men's groups over the last 17 years with literally thousands of guys and hearing how they experience social anxiety, what they do to manage it, you know, I've been able to learn some things, and luckily those things have been working for me lately. And so I'd love to, you know, share those things with you, not from a place of me knowing it all or being a coach or anything like that. Just more, here's what seems to work for guys with regards to social anxiety. Guys all over the world, guys from different walks of life, you know? If you saw me out in public, I don't seem like I'm socially anxious that often. You'd say, wow, Sean's confident. He's a social butterfly. And it's true, I do mingle. I like mingling. I am very social. And I've had jobs like being a pro DJ where I actually really did have to use my social skills quite a bit, or teaching hockey lessons at the rec center, or these different things. And I do get energy from being social. But last night I felt a ton of anxiety when I went up to this concert with a bunch of local bands, and I know the guys that are in the bands, and I knew a bunch of people from around town that I surf with, and a couple pals were going. And I felt really depleted lately, you know. I felt overwhelmed by a bunch of the projects I've taken on. I've overcommitted. I've been working a lot on men's group and renos on my house and a bunch of other stuff, trying to work on my health. And it's been a lot. I haven't had a break. It's been go, go, go. And I really just, my body last night was calling for just a quiet night of rest, you know? And I didn't give myself that because just like a bunch of my friends were there. I wanted to see my friends in the bands. We don't have a lot of concerts in the little town we live in. So I just thought it'd be cool. And I am happy I went because I learned something about myself with regards to my social anxiety. But yeah, at the end of the day, I didn't listen to my body. And then when I got to the event, I kind of paid for it. So got there. Immediately, it was a bunch of young people dancing. Bunch of young women having hot girl summers, and a bunch of dudes, you know, trying to look cool or whatever. And as soon as I got there, my whole nervous system was like, nope, not interested, you know. Saw a bunch of people that I didn't really want to see. Just people I'd have small conversations with that I didn't really feel like having. Often I do, but I just wasn't feeling social again. So my anxiety ramped up immediately, and I was like, ugh, should I leave? What should I do? And I kind of fumbled around the outskirts of the event trying to figure out what I should do. And I was being calm and kind with myself, compassionate, being like, whatever you need, man, you know. And I was literally just, yeah, I was about to leave, and then I thought, well, I'm here. Why don't I see if this is like truly not what I need? Like, this is not good for me, like as a self-care thing, or if it's like, oh, maybe I'm just feeling anxious. So I stuck it out And I told myself, yeah, we can leave in 15 minutes. Let's just see how it goes, you know? And what ended up happening is I guess the strategy number one was talk myself back for the cliff and gave it out, but explored it anyways. Because if I listened to my anxiety every time it popped up and just stayed at home, then I wouldn't have a social life and I'd be a hermit. And I recognize that's not great for me either, feeling isolated and hanging out at home and maybe numbing out with different vices or, you know, have bad habits. Couch rotting, if you will. For me, it's eating poorly and stuff. And so I decided, step one, I decided to explore it with it, gave myself an out. Step two, I tried to find one or two people that were, would make me feel comfortable and calm. And at the beginning, I actually didn't find that. I was kind of walking around, kind of looking for my people and didn't find them, and that only added to the anxiety. And I was like, damn. And number three, I worked the periphery. So like in the middle of it just seemed chaotic. I kind of like didn't take the event at face value. Like, wow, people are partying hard. I was like, can I make this work for me? How can I make this work for me? And I kind of hung out in the outskirts. And then sure enough, I ended up spotting a friend that I really enjoy seeing. And he was kind of just chilling on the outskirts, kind of in this upper area overlooking the party. And I walked around the whole party kind of awkwardly and ended up going right up to him and just kind of said, "What's up, dude?" And started chatting and slipped into a bit of a groove there. And then another friend came over and said hi, who I like. And then I saw another buddy down below who was kind of standing in the periphery as well. Yeah. And I noticed, hey, that's interesting. The people that I like the most are all work in the periphery. So there's probably like a age maturity / introvert extrovert component to who I feel drawn to and who I feel safe in these environments. And it was great. I ended up having some fun chats, and you know, my buddies that I ran into even were feeling similar things, and I actually fell into some really nice conversations about the social anxiety that I was feeling, and both of us benefited from that. And then as I was leaving, I was like, okay, you know, I've been here for an hour and a half, you know, that's enough. I should probably just get home and kind of do the cocooning thing that I really wanted to do. Just chill out by myself. And what ended up happening is this friend of mine, I saw him on the periphery. He was actually in one of the bands, and we surfed together occasionally, but he's quite a bit younger than me. So I just assumed he'd be partying, kind of just let him do that. But he spotted me and walked over when I was heading towards my bike that I'd locked up. He's like, "Hey Sean, good to see you, man." And he's like, "You been getting waves lately?" And then we started talking about waves, and he's like, you want to sit on this bench, you know, this picnic table for a bit sort of on the periphery of the event. And I was like, yeah, that'd be nice. And so we sat there and just talked about surfing, talked about his new job, talked about his goals in town here, and it was just really nice. And I ended up hanging out for another hour with him, just having a little one-on-one conversation. And so and then I guess point 5 is I actually, well, I was kind of working the periphery, and when I started to kind of like get a little panicky, like, oh, what have I done? Like, this isn't for me. I don't want to be here, all these things. I ended up just like stepping away from the whole thing. I crossed the street and I went over there, and I actually took a couple breaths. I sat down on this big rock, and I was just like, you know, with my eyes open, kind of drifting closed. I took a couple breaths and just kind of steadied myself, calmed my nervous system down. And again, reminded myself, hey, you got out, 10 minutes and we'll go, whatever. And then I don't think it's any coincidence that shortly after that's when I spotted my buddy, and then things started to flow. And so, you know, even though I'm somebody who you'd see on video here or out in public or out in the surf lineup or out at a party, you'd be like, wow, he's pretty confident. You know, I don't mind public speaking and that kind of stuff. But I too wrestle with social anxiety, and I've had to learn how to manage it. And I hope this story illustrates some of the ways that I continue to manage it on an ongoing basis. And at the end of the day, I was really happy that I went. Like, yes, I probably should have listened to my body and had a quiet night, but I was like, at the end of the day, there aren't that many concerts in town, and I'm gonna have a couple quiet nights coming up, camping. And so I decided to push it, and I'm truthfully really happy that I did, because I learned stuff about myself. Maybe those kinds of events, I have to expect that I'm not going to be in the middle of it, and I'm going to be on the periphery and might feel a little awkward. That remind myself to give myself an out, do some breathing exercises, and work the periphery. Look for a couple little more one-on-one, introvert, comfortable kind of conversations, and maybe I'll have a great time. And if not, I can always go back to doing those things that I was kind of feeling like I should do to avoid that whole situation in the first place. So hopefully this helps you with your social anxiety. That's the exact kind of thing we talk about in men's group all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week. There's guys in our community hopping on Zoom and having chats in the forums and stuff about topics like social anxiety, and we're all dealing with this stuff. There's very few people who don't. And appreciate you listening. If you have any thoughts about this video, or you'd like to see my thoughts on any other topic, if you'd like to hear what guys in men's group think about certain things, I love distilling that information, since I get to sit on so many groups and I've done so for so many years. And leave those thoughts in the comments below. All right, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in men's group.